extraordinary places on our planet, but you probably find it hard to imagine that, in the heart of Europe, there is a magical place shrouded in amazing legends. A nation where men wear skirts, but nothing underneath, where women are considered among the most sensual on the planet. And there are legends that some of them were able to remove their skin to bewitch men and make them disappear. Scotland, a country with realities as surprising as viewpoints where intimate relationships are maintained, or traditions such as Beltane Fire, a festival of fire, in which thousands of people dance scantily clad in a sensual dance symbolizing the intimate act. A land full of mysteries and legends, such as hiding the most famous monster on the planet in a lake, concealing underground streets where the spirit of a girl makes those who sense her tremble, and hiding a diabolical spirit that, according to stories, has attacked thousands of people. This country was also the setting where the famous body snatchers made their name, and where one of the most intense witch hunts in history was unleashed, driven by the panic of a king after a sea voyage. The country of magic is not only the birthplace of Harry Potter, whose world began to take shape in a cafe in its capital, with giant mountains and majestic waterfalls on its peaks, where the world's most beautiful cows with bangs live, or ponies with vests as beautiful as the thousands of islands and the wild nature of this country. Pay attention and don't miss this video, because in addition to these fascinating facts, you'll discover that the country of Redheads is also where golf was born in the Middle Ages, and there is a crypt where the blood of Jesus Christ is believed to be hidden, more commonly known as the Holy Grail. Let's get started. In the heart of Europe lies a legendary land, a region so full of beauty and mystery that it leaves those who visit it speechless. A place where history intertwines with ancient myths, where wild nature dominates the landscape, and magic tells stories of women who inhabit the lakes, seducing and making people disappear, crypts where the blood or descendants of Jesus Christ himself are kept, and even the most famous monster on the planet, in which many still believe. That land is Scotland, a country that captivates with its beauty and fascinating stories. Scotland has a population of approximately 5.4 million and covers an area of around 77,000 square kilometers, making it a relatively small and sparsely populated nation compared to other European countries. This low population density has allowed vast areas of its territory to remain unspoiled, offering spectacular wilderness, from the peaks of the Highlands, home to unique animals such as Highland cattle, considered by many to be the most beautiful in the world, to its countless lakes, hundreds of islands, and rocky coastlines. Geographically, Scotland occupies the northern part of the island of Great Britain, bordered to the south by England and surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea. Its climate, marked by cold winters and mild summers, contributes to the abundance of forests and green hills covered with heather, which help to foster legends of fairies, magic, and mystery. The name Scotland comes from the Latin Scotia, which originally referred to the inhabitants of Ireland, its neighboring country, with which it shares one of the most striking curiosities, having the highest number of redheads per square meter on the planet. Over time, the term Scotia came to specifically identify this region and its people, establishing itself as a symbol of national identity. As we mentioned, Scotland is known for having the largest population of redheads in the world, with 13% of its total population possessing this genetic trait. In addition, many facts and statistics claim that Scottish women are considered among the most sensual on the planet, something we will discover later in this video. The history of this country is rich and complex, from the ancient Pictish tribes that inhabited the region, through the Roman invasion, to the formation of the Kingdom of Scotland in the Middle Ages. Its past is full of battles, alliances, and struggles for independence. It was a country that resisted Anglo-Saxon rule for centuries, and finally united with England in the 17th century to form the United Kingdom, while always retaining a strong cultural identity of its own. The official language of the country is English, but Scottish, Gaelic, and Scots are also spoken, a distinct Germanic language with its own roots and a rich literary heritage. Gaelic, although spoken by a minority, represents the Celtic soul of Scotland and is still preserved especially in the islands and more remote regions. Today, Scotland combines modernity with tradition. Its economy is based on sectors such as tourism, energy, and technology, while its cities, such as Edinburgh and Glasgow, offer vibrant cultural and artistic scenes that attract millions of visitors each year. One of the most surprising curiosities of this country, which helps to understand its powerful relationship with magic and legends, is that its national animal is the unicorn, a mythological creature symbolizing purity, power, and freedom, which has appeared on the country's coat of arms since the 15th century. It is a symbol that perfectly reflects the mixture of reality and fantasy that surrounds this nation. The country's capital, Edinburgh, is built on 7 hills, and although it is not the largest city in Europe, it contains endless mysteries and legends that you will soon discover, making it undoubtedly one of the most beautiful and historic cities on the continent. Glasgow, on the other hand, is the country's most populous city and an important industrial and cultural center. Among the historical curiosities of this country, it is worth noting that Scotland is the birthplace of golf, a sport that originated in the Middle Ages and whose most important association in the world, the Royal Ancient Golf Club of St. Andrews, is still in existence today. It is said that golf began as a simple game on the sandy beaches and hills of the Scottish coast, where shepherds and fishermen used improvised sticks to hit small leather balls filled with feathers into holes dug in the ground. More than a sport, it was a form of entertainment and friendly competition in a natural environment, full of wind and challenges. Over time, this popular practice gained structure, rules, and prestige, eventually becoming the organized game we know today. As you will see throughout this trip through Scotland, this country is home to a wealth of legends that have a lot to do with the magic that permeates its natural beauty. As we mentioned, this country has the highest percentage of redheads on the planet. It is estimated that approximately 13% of the Scottish population has this trait naturally, and that more than 35% carry the recessive gene, which means that redheads are likely to continue to be born for generations to come. In many global surveys conducted by dating apps and websites, redheaded women are considered the most desirable on the planet due to their combination of fair skin, freckles, vibrant hair, and a confident, sensual, and wild attitude that contrasts so well with the country's landscape. This has made them a recurring fantasy for many people who admire their unique features. For them, red-headed women are not only physically beautiful, but they see an aura, an energy, an ancestral force that seems to accompany them from those times of swords and druids. This is probably why it is no coincidence that many Scottish legends feature women with red hair. Legends such as those of witches, which have a lot to do with the past and present of this country. They say that there are places in the world where the wind seems to speak, and that if you listen carefully as you walk through the mist of Scotland, you can hear fragments of ancient stories whispered by the stones, the cliffs, and the castles. One of these stories begins in the country's capital, in a city that seems to have been sculpted by the hands of time, Edinburgh. High on a rugged hill, watching over the city like an eternal sentinel, stands Edinburgh Castle, majestic and gloomy, overlooking the North Sea and the green lands that stretch to the horizon. It was from here that, centuries ago, a young monarch ruled who believed that the forces of heaven and earth would intervene in his destiny. His name was James, son of Mary Stuart, and one day he would be King of Scotland and later of all Great Britain. His legend began with a journey. While sailing from Denmark to Scotland with his wife Queen Anne, a fierce storm struck their ship. The sails were torn, the masts creaked, and the waves seemed to want to swallow the newlyweds. They managed to survive, but the worst was not the storm, but what came after. In Denmark, James had heard rumors that women with ancient knowledge and hair as red as fire had summoned the storm with the help of invisible forces. A deeply religious man, he quickly came to believe that it was no mere coincidence. Back in Edinburgh, after gazing at the hills from Calton Hill, the country's most famous viewpoint, where controversial events still take place today, as you will learn later, James could not shake the feeling that an intangible threat was looming over his kingdom. It was a viewpoint where many of the executions that would later take place would occur. In his work Demonology, published in 1597, he recounted his thoughts on these hidden forces in prose that combined poetry and fear. Shortly afterwards, in the coastal village of North Berwick, east of the capital, rumors began to surface of nighttime gatherings and women whispering with the tide. The king ordered an investigation, and so began a persecution unique in its time, a witch hunt that would sweep across much of the country. This took place in the heart of Edinburgh, in alleys such as Mary King's Close, now visited with lanterns in hand due to the presence of the ghost of a girl we will soon discover, which were filled with whispers and suspicions, while certain names began to appear in official documents. Seeking answers or perhaps solace, Jacobo traveled to the Isle of Skye, more than 900 wild islands scattered with towering cliffs and unique natural beauty. Aboard his ships he crossed valleys covered with heather, mountains that touched the clouds, and lakes so still that they reflected the sky like enchanted mirrors. There he claimed to find something resembling peace, although the questions remained. Who were these women with such different wisdom and an energy that seemed to come from hell itself? Many were red-haired, with intense eyes, and they would soon be given a name: witches. In that world of swords, superstitions, and legends, their mere existence was enough to strike fear into the hearts of men. As a result, the book Demonology became the spark that ignited one of the greatest witch hunts in history. Over the following years, dozens of people, mostly women, would be accused of conspiring with the invisible, singled out for their knowledge, intuition, or simply for being different, and often condemned to the stake, disappearing in flames that burned not only bodies but also stories. We hope you found this story as fascinating as we did. If so, we would greatly appreciate a simple gesture, leaving us a like. It's the most direct way to help Uncensored World continue researching and discovering places and legends like these. That witch hunt was one of the darkest episodes in Scottish history, but it's in the past. And as you'll see, it's not even among the most terrifying. Now we are going to learn about one of them, the one hidden in the most famous and feared alley in the Scottish capital, hidden beneath the surface as if the city itself wanted to forget it. The name of this alley is Mary King's Close. If you travel to Edinburgh, you will see that it is a beautiful medieval city made of stone and poetry, elegantly built on 7 hills, like Rome itself. But beneath its cobblestones in the heart of the old town lies a network of passages and rooms sealed for centuries. Mary King's Close was one of those alleys forgotten by time, buried alive during the expansion of the city, when new buildings were constructed directly on top of it. Although in this case the decision to wall it up, as you will see, went much further. Today, this alley can be visited, but it is not for everyone, as many claim to feel sudden changes in temperature, whispers in empty rooms, or a pressure in their chest that is difficult to explain. Everything seems to be due to the presence of a little girl, or rather her ghost. Her name was Annie, according to the stories, a little girl who died during a great plague, abandoned by her family and forgotten in the shadows of this alley. Over time, the place was sealed off and hidden from the world. They say that after her death, her spirit remained there, waiting, and that she still does. Many visitors have reported feeling an inexplicable sadness upon entering the small room, a quiet corner where, after their visit, many leave clothes, sweets, drawings, or dolls, in a gesture that seems closer to protection or superstition than to simple remembrance. Even so, many mediums claim that the little girl's spirit continues to ask for dolls, as if seeking company or comfort. Some have even felt the disturbing presence of a plague doctor in his mask, who still seems to walk silently through the corridors of Mary King's Close, reminding us that the past never completely disappears. But as you will discover, Annie is not the most feared ghost in Edinburgh. That would be the one known as Bloody Mackenzie, who does not hide in an alley, but remains locked in a crypt in the city's most famous cemetery, a story we will learn more about later. But first, there is another mystery to unearth that also has to do with graves. For centuries, Edinburgh's cemeteries were as crowded with the living as they were with the dead. And not just for prayer, also for theft. During the 19th century, the Scottish capital experienced a disturbing academic trend. Doctors needed corpses to study, but the law prohibited their use without consent. That was when dark figures emerged, known as grave robbers. Armed with shovels and bags, these people roamed the cemeteries at night, digging up fresh bodies to sell to universities. The need became so great that some of them even crossed the line of waiting and decided to cause death in order to profit from it. The most famous were William Burke and William Hare, who carried out their macabre deeds in Edinburgh during the 19th century. Finally, after being discovered, Burke was executed and Hare was handed over to justice to face his fate. Their story not only shook Scotland, but also left an indelible mark on the memory of medicine and crime at the time. Among the country's cemeteries, the most famous is Greyfriars, whose crooked gravestones and corridors contain an ancient crypt believed to be inhabited by the most powerful and aggressive ghost in the United Kingdom, and perhaps the world. But to get to that mystery, we must first cross the border between the rational and the ancestral, back to the origins, to the pagan rites that celebrated the cycle of life and the earth, to the outdoor dances without clothes under the moon, where bodies painted red and blue moved to the beat of fire and music in an extremely sensual dance, and to the mystery of the Selkies, the legendary women who, when they removed their skin, became human, and cast spells on people to make them disappear. One of these magical dances is the Beltane Fire Festival, an event that brings together more than 300 people in Edinburgh every year. During this festival, participants dance scantily clad or even naked, their bodies decorated with red and blue paint, evoking ancient symbols of nature and rebirth. Under the April moon, around the dancing flames of the bonfires, they invoke energies that connect them to the earth and the cycles of the sun, celebrating the arrival of spring and asking for prosperity and abundance. Some still believe it is possible to invoke the power of witches or hidden forces. For the Scots, this festival is not just a celebration, but a bridge between the pagan past and the present, a reminder of how ancestral traditions continue to beat beneath the skin of the modern city. A festival where extremely sensual dances take place under the moonlight, in a fusion of bodies and paint that seem to reveal the union between legend and reality so deeply rooted in this legendary country. But to understand Scotland's unique character and its special relationship with living with little clothing in the country, you don't have to wait for the Beltane Fire Festival. Just look at the country's most authentic and emblematic garment, the kilt. The kilt is a traditional symbol of Scotland, a men's skirt that seems to hold secrets in every fold, and which actually hides the nakedness of the wearer, as the traditional way of wearing it is with nothing underneath. One of the most talked about curiosities is that men who wear it, even in the middle of winter with temperatures below freezing, do not wear underwear. This custom has given rise to legends and jokes that have been told throughout the centuries. But the kilt is not just a garment. It is an emblem of pride and freedom for the Scottish people, a statement of identity that refers to the clans and the country's warrior history. In this country, it is not only men who hide secrets, as one of the most famous Scottish legends has to do with women known as Selkies, mythological beings that are half seal, half human. These women, whom many believe to exist, are thought to be able to shed their seal skins to walk on land as humans and bewitch men with their beauty and mystery. Legend has it that Selkies seduce, love, and then disappear into the waters, leaving those who find them with an intense memory and an impossible longing, but also taking many lovers with them. That is why, even today, many people associate unexplained disappearances with these mythological beings, and there are quite a few Scottish women who prefer that their loved ones and lovers do not go near the country's waters alone, fearing that they may lose them forever beneath the waves. But beyond these legendary beings and women, there are other stories that tell of much more earthly and contemporary human encounters. but equally steeped in mystery, sensuality, and secrets. In the capital, at the most famous viewpoint, Calton Hill, where centuries ago executions took place during the country's largest witch hunt, not only can you see monuments and breathtaking views, but it has also become a place where, since the 19th century, intimate encounters have taken place in the privacy of the night. For years, the Scottish police have recognized this site as a regular spot for such encounters, and the press has documented cases as surreal as that of a tourist who simulated an intimate encounter with a traffic cone, causing surprise and laughter among witnesses. These events reflect a lesser-known and more human side of the city, in a country where pagan rituals and centuries-old traditions merge with the present, and where every corner hides stories waiting to be told. Stories as magical as that of Harry Potter, the best-selling literary saga in human history, which was born in Edinburgh within the walls of a now famous cafe in the center of the capital called the Elephant House. According to writer J.K. Rowling, it was within the walls of that cozy cafe, now known worldwide as the Elephant House, that she began to weave her universe of spells, castles, and wizards. Sitting by the window inspired by the silhouette of Edinburgh Castle against the grey sky, the author transformed the murmur of the city into the bustle of a school of magic. There, enchanted corridors, talking portraits, and the boy with the scar who would win over millions of readers were born. Between cups of tea and the clatter of old typewriters, Rowling found refuge to continue drawing that fantasy world while facing a difficult personal period. But the magic of Harry Potter is not limited to the cobbled streets of the capital that the author observed from her window. Several miles to the northwest stands the Glenfinnan Viaduct, a stone colossus that embraces the mountains and waters of Loch Shiel. Every summer, the Jacobite steam train travels through its arches, a real-life Hogwarts express that winds its way through mist and heather, while an ancient whistle echoes through the valleys. Many fans of the saga say that looking out of the windows of this train is like feeling, even if only for a moment, like a first-year student on their way to the School of Magic. A magic that seems to be concentrated, like nowhere else in the Highlands surrounding the Glenfinnan Viaduct. There, among heather-covered mountains and ever-changing skies, reality blends with fantasy. But beyond the viaduct, there are other corners of Scotland that seem to have been taken straight out of the magical world. The landscapes of Glencoe, with their rugged peaks and legendary atmosphere, also served as the setting for the Harry Potter films, as did the University of Glasgow, with its neo-Gothic architecture, the best example of Hogwarts, although it was not used as an official location. And when it comes to beauty, we cannot forget Steel Falls, one of the highest waterfalls in the country, where many other scenes from the saga were filmed. But these are just some of the natural wonders that Scotland has to offer. The best example is the Highlands, majestic mountains that make you feel tiny when you look at them, with waterfalls hidden at their peaks, plunging hundreds of meters down, as if descending directly from the clouds. This area is also home to some very real but equally unique creatures, such as the unmistakable Highland cattle, with their gentle gaze and natural fringe that seems to defy the wind and rain. In these mountains, you can also see small Scottish ponies, which often walk along the roads with absolute calm, as if the world belonged to them. Some of them even wear reflective vests, an image as cute as it is unusual, which many associate with some kind of protective spell. In reality, this custom arose for a very practical reason. Being so small and roaming freely along rural roads, some ponies were difficult to see in fog or low light. So the locals began to dress them in these vests so that drivers would not encounter them by surprise. Although no one denies that, seeing them like this, they also look like guardians of some ancient Highland secret. In this majestic setting, you will also find Loch Shiel, the lake that appears next to Hogwarts in the films. Its waters reflect the mountains like an enchanted mirror, and its silence seems to hold ancient secrets. However, this is not by any means the most famous lake in the country. That title belongs to another legendary place, Loch Ness, home to what many believe to be the most famous monster on the planet. According to legend, a gigantic creature inhabits the depths of the lake. The legend of the Loch Ness monster, affectionately known as Nessie, began to circulate widely at the beginning of the last century, when locals and travelers alike reported seeing a gigantic shape gliding beneath the waves. Blurry images, impossible ripples, and that famous black and white photograph fueled the fascination. Newspapers at the time spoke of a prehistoric creature trapped in time, perhaps a distant relative of the plesiosaurs. Curiosity went so far that, over the years, scientific expeditions equipped with sonar and underwater cameras have searched the lake from shore to shore. Acoustic scans, drones, and even tiny submarines have been deployed in search of answers. Although no study has confirmed the existence of a giant animal, researchers have found underwater cavities, unusual currents, and greater depths than many believed possible. All of this fuels the delightful idea that there may still be room for the unknown. Although nothing conclusive has been discovered, many believe it could be an unidentified prehistoric animal, such as a plesiosaur, or an illusion caused by the vastness of the waters, their color, and the mystery and legends that surround this country like no other. The truth is that Loch Ness, with its dark waters and persistent mist, has a magnetism that continues to attract explorers, scientists, and dreamers. Very close to the lake back in the Highlands, every year between May and June, the legendary Highland Games are held, one of the most extraordinary championships on the planet. This event combines sport, tradition, and a dash of Scottish madness, as the competitions include throwing logs weighing over 70 kilos, sack races, and cylinder lifting competitions. These are quite extravagant games, made even more so by the fact that many of the participants wear kilts, with nothing underneath, maintaining this genuine custom that speaks of Scottish pride and freedom. Its origins date back to the 18th century, when Scottish clans held competitions to train their warriors. Today they maintain that spirit of strength, endurance, and community, but without swords, and with the smiles and curiosity of many visitors. Amidst the cries of victory, bagpipe music, and raised logs, many participants fear realities that many would consider childish beliefs. Mysteries of the afterlife, such as Scotland's most feared spirit, which lurks in the crypt of Greyfriars Kirkyard in Edinburgh. It is said that after desecrating the tomb of Bloody Mackenzie, a cruel 17th century lawyer, he began to experience paranormal attacks, scratches on his skin, fainting spells, voices in the night. Today, thousands of such cases have been reported, almost always during nighttime guided tours of this crypt. For many, this spirit is the most aggressive in the United Kingdom, so much so that the crypt remains closed to the public, although anyone who wishes to can come and see if the legend is true. At this point, we'd like to ask you, would you dare to enter this crypt at night? What do you think of the red-haired beauty? Or what has surprised you most about this magical country? Pause the video and leave us your comments. You know that doing so is the best way to support the channel, so we can continue working every week to bring you the best content. So thank you. In this country of mystery and legends, the one that amazes the most and that surely few believe in has nothing to do with ghosts, but with a crypt, which could be considered the most fascinating on Earth if its legend were true. This crypt is located in Rosslyn Chapel, built in the 15th century. For centuries, it has been rumored that the blood of Jesus Christ, known as the Holy Grail, could be hidden beneath its stones, a sacred object that, according to some theories, contains the genes or divine lineage of the Son of God himself. Some theories, such as those in the Da Vinci Code, suggest that Christ may have had descendants and that their blood was protected in this crypt, out of reach of the official church. Be that as it may, inside this chapel there are curious symbols. The apprentice's pillar, faces hidden in the stone, and even a portico with plants from the American continent carved before the discovery of America. Some scholars believe that these details point to esoteric knowledge that only the most initiated could understand. This is the source of a myth that remains unanswered. Could Rosslyn Chapel hold more than just bones and legends? Legends and realities that you would surely like to know more about if you have come this far. As you can see, Uncensored World allows you to discover the world like no other travel channel. With that in mind, and before explaining how you can visit and enjoy this fascinating country to the fullest, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on videos like this every week. Thank you. At this point, you're probably wondering how to plan a visit to Scotland. With that in mind, at Uncensored World, we've gathered all the essential information so you can enjoy your experience in this land of eternal green, Celtic legends, and men in kilts to the fullest. Scotland has several international airports, the most important being Edinburgh, followed by Glasgow. From Europe, there are direct flights from the main capitals. From America, it is most common to fly with a stopover in London, Dublin, or Amsterdam, although some airlines offer direct routes from New York, Toronto, or Boston, especially during the high season, which coincides with the summer months, June, July, and August. When the weather is milder, the days are longer, and there are many outdoor festivals. This season attracts the most tourists due to the beauty of the landscape in all its splendor and the ideal conditions for exploring castles, mountains, and lakes. If you are visiting as a tourist from the European Union, the United States, Canada, or many South American countries, you do not need a visa for stays of less than 6 months. All you need is a valid passport. Once in Scotland, the best way to get around is by car or camper van, as this is the freest and most exciting way to discover all its hidden corners. If you are driving, it is important to remember that they drive on the left here. There are also trains and buses, although they do not reach all rural areas or the deepest parts of the Highlands. And if budget is a concern, there's good news. Scotland is one of the few countries in Europe where wild camping is legal. Thanks to a law that guarantees responsible public access to nature, it is possible to sleep outdoors just a few meters from the most beautiful castles or places such as Loch Ness, either in a tent or camper, in many parts of the country, provided that the rules and the environment are respected. This helps to reduce costs considerably, especially considering that Scotland is not exactly a cheap destination. To give you an idea, a coffee in Edinburgh can cost around $4, and a night in a mid-range hotel for 2 people is between $120 and $200, depending on the season. That's why more and more travelers are choosing to sleep on wheels and live the adventure on the move. If you arrive in Scotland and want to discover the country's most iconic sites, Edinburgh, Loch Ness, Glenfinnan, the Highlands, castles, and maybe even the Isle of Skye, ideally, you should allow at least 7 to 10 days to explore at a leisurely pace by car or camper van. If you have less time, 4 or 5 days may be enough to explore Edinburgh and some areas of the Southern Highlands, with equally magical and breathtaking landscapes. From Uncensored World, we hope that this tour of Scotland's wonders and curiosities has been as exciting for you as it has been for us. If you enjoyed this video, and you're not yet subscribed, don't wait any longer and subscribe now by clicking the bell icon so you don't miss out on the fascinating videos we make every week. Videos like this one, which you can enjoy now to discover one of the most enigmatic corners of the planet. Don't miss out and discover the wonders this place has to offer.